He who has seen everything I will make known to the lands. I will teach about him who experienced all things alike. Anu granted him the totality of knowledge of all. He saw the secret, discovered the hidden. He brought information of the time before the flood. He went on a distant journey, pushing himself to exhaustion, but then was brought to peace. He carved on a stone stela all of his toils, and built the wall of Uruk Haven, the wall of the sacred Ina temple, the holy sanctuary. Look at its wall, which gleams like copper. Inspect its inner wall, the likes of which no one can equal. Take hold of the threshold stone. It dates from ancient times. Go close to the Ina temple, the residence of Ishtar, such as no later king or man has ever equaled. Go up on the wall of Uruk and walk around. Examine its foundation. Inspect its brickwork thoroughly. Is not even the core of the brick structure made of kiln-fired brick, and did not the 7 sages themselves lay out its plans? 1 league city, 1 league palm gardens, 1 league lowlands, the open area of the Ishtar temple. 3 leagues and the open area of Uruk it encloses. Find the copper tablet box, open its lock of bronze, undo the fastenings of its secret opening. Take and read out from the lapis lazuli tablet how Gilgamesh went through every hardship. Supreme over other kings, lordly in appearance, he is the hero, born of Uruk, the goring wild bull. He walks out in front, the leader, and walks at the rear, trusted by his companions. Mighty Net, protector of his people, raging flood wave who destroys even walls of stone. Offspring of Lugalbandia, Gilgamesh is strong to perfection. Son of the august cow, Ramat-Ninsun, Gilgamesh is awesome to perfection. It was he who opened the mountain passes, who dug wells on the flank of the mountain. It was he who crossed the ocean, the vast seas to the rising sun, who explored the world's regions seeking life. It was he who reached by his own sheer strength Utnapishtim, the faraway, who restored the sanctuaries that the flood had destroyed for teeming mankind. Who can compare with him in kingliness? Who can say like Gilgamesh, I am king? Whose name from the day of his birth was called Gilgamesh? 2/3 of him is God, 1/3 of him is man. The great goddess designed the model for his body. She prepared his form. Beautiful, handsomest of men, perfect. He walks around the enclosure of Uruk. Like a wild bull, he makes himself mighty, head raised over others. There is no rival who can raise his weapon against him. His fellows stand, attentive to his orders. And the men of Uruk became anxious in. Gilgamesh does not leave a son to his father. Night and day, he arrogantly. Is Gilgamesh the shepherd of Uruk Haven? Is he the shepherd, bold, imminent, knowing, and wise? Gilgamesh does not leave a girl to her mother, the daughter of the warrior, the bride of the young man. The gods kept hearing their complaints. So the gods of the heavens implored the Lord of Uruk. You have indeed brought into being a mighty wild bull, head raised. There is no rival who can raise a weapon against him. His fellows stand at the alert, attentive to his orders. Gilgamesh does not leave a son to his father. Night and day, he arrogantly. Is he the shepherd of Uruk Haven? Is he their shepherd, bold, eminent, knowing, and wise? Gilgamesh does not leave a girl to her mother. The daughter of the warrior, the bride of the young man, Anu listened to their complaints, and the gods called out to Aruru. Was it you, Aruru, who created mankind? Now create a Zikru to him. Let him be equal to his stormy heart. Let them be a match for each other so that Uruk may find peace. When Ururu heard this, she created within herself the Zikrit of Anu. Ururu washed her hands, pinched off some clay, and threw it into the wilderness. In the wilderness she created the valiant Enkidu. Born of silence, endowed with the strength of Ninurta, his whole body was shaggy with hair. He had a full head of hair like a woman. His locks billowed in profusion like Ashnan. He knew neither people nor settled living, but wore a garment like Sumukan. He ate grasses with the gazelles. He jostled at the watering hole with animals. As with animals, his thirst was slaked with mere water. A notorious trapper came face to face with him opposite of the watering hole. A first, a second, and a third day, he came face to face with him opposite the watering hole. On seeing him, the trapper's face went stark with fear, and he and his animals drew back home. He was rigid with fear, though, stock still, his heart pounded and his face drained of color. He was miserable to the core, and his face looked like one who had made a long journey. The trapper addressed his father, saying, "Father, a certain fellow has come from the mountains. He is the mightiest in the land. His strength is as mighty as the meteorite of Anu. He continually goes over the mountains. He continually jostles at the watering place with the animals. He continually plants his feet opposite the watering place. I was afraid, so I did not go up to him. He filled in the pits that I had dug, wrenched out my traps that I had spread, released from my grasp the wild animals. He does not let me make my rounds in the wilderness." The trapper's father spoke to him, saying, "My son, there lives in Uruk a certain Gilgamesh. There is no one stronger than he. He is as strong as the meteorite of Anu. Go, set off to Uruk. Tell Gilgamesh of this man of might. He will give you the harlot Shamhat. Take her with you. This woman will overcome the fellow as if she were strong. When the animals are drinking at the water place, have her take off her robe and expose her sex. When he sees her, he will draw near to her, and his animals, who grew up in his wilderness, will be alien to him." He heeded his father's advice. The trapper went off to Uruk. He made the journey, stood inside of Uruk, and declared to Gilgamesh, "There is a certain fellow who has come from the mountains. He is the mightiest in the land. His strength is as mighty as the meteorite of Anu. He continually goes over the mountains. He continually jostles at the watering place with animals. He continually plants his feet opposite the watering place. I was afraid, so I did not go up to him. He filled in the pits I had dug, wrenched out the traps I had spread, and released from my grasp the wild animals. He does not let me make my rounds in the wilderness." Gilgamesh said to the trapper, "Go, trapper, bring the harlot Shamhat with you. When the animals are drinking at the water place, have her take off her robe and expose her sex. When he sees her, he will draw near to her, and his animals, who grew up in the wilderness, will be alien to him." The trapper went, bringing the harlot Shamhat with him. They set off on the journey, making direct way. On the third day they arrived at the appointed place, and the trapper and the harlot sat down at their posts. A first day and a second they sat opposite the watering hole. The animals arrived and drank at the watering hole. The wild beasts arrived and slaked their thirst with water. Then he, Enkidu, offspring of the mountains, who eats grasses with the gazelles, came to drink at the watering hole with the animals. With the wild beasts he slaked his thirst with water. Then Shamhat saw him, a primitive, a savage fellow from the depths of the wilderness. That is he, Shamhat. Release your clenched arms, expose your sex so that he can take in your voluptuousness. Do not be restrained, take his energy. When he sees you, he will draw near to you. Spread out your robe so he can lie upon you and perform for this primitive the task of womanhood. His animals who grew up in the wilderness will become alien to him, and his lust will groan over you. Shamhat unclenched her bosom, exposed her sex, and he took in her voluptuousness. She was not restrained, but took his energy. She spread out her robe, and he lay upon her. She performed for the primitive the task of womanhood. His lust groaned over her. For 6 days and 7 nights Enkidu stayed aroused, and he had intercourse with the harlot, until he was satiated with her charms. But when he turned his attention to his animals, the gazelles saw Enkidu and darted off. The wild animals distanced themselves from his body. Enkidu, his utterly depleted body, his knees that wanted to go off with the animals, went rigid. Enkidu was diminished. His running was not as before. But then he drew himself up, for his understanding had broadened. Turning around, he sat down at the harlot's feet, gazing into her face, his ears attentive as the harlot spoke. The harlot said to Enkidu, "You are beautiful. Enkidu, you are become like a god. Why do you gallop around the wilderness like a wild beast? Come, let me bring you to Uruk haven, to the holy temple, the residence of Anu and Ishtar, the place of Gilgamesh, who is wise to perfection, but who struts his power over the people like a wild bull." What she kept saying found favor with him. Becoming aware of himself, he sought a friend. Enkidu spoke to the harlot, "Come, Shamhat, take me away with you to the sacred holy temple, the residence of Anu and Ishtar, the place of Gilgamesh, who is wise to perfection, but who struts his power over the people like a wild bull. I will challenge him. Let me shout out in Uruk, I am the mighty one. Lead me in, and I will change the order of things. He whose strength is mightiness is the one born in the wilderness. Come, let us go, so he may see your face. I will lead you to Gilgamesh. I know where he will be. Look about Enkidu, inside Uruk haven, where the people show off in skirted finery, where every day is a day for some festival, where the lyre and drum play continually, where harlots stand about prettily, exuding voluptuousness, full of laughter, and, on the couch of night, the sheets are spread. Enkidu, you who do not know how to live, I will show you Gilgamesh, a man of extreme feelings. Look at him. Gaze at his face. He is a handsome youth with freshness. His entire body exudes voluptuousness. He has mightier strength than you, without sleeping day or night. Enkidu, it is your wrong thoughts you must change. It is Gilgamesh whom Shamhat loves, and Anu, Enlil, and La have enlarged his mind. Even before you came from the mountain, Gilgamesh and Uruk had dreams of you. Gilgamesh got up and revealed the dream, saying to his mother, "Mother, I had a dream last night. Stars of the sky appeared, and some kind of meteorite of Anu fell next to me. I tried to lift it, but it was too mighty for me. I tried to turn it over, but I could not budge it. The land of Uruk was standing about it. The whole land had assembled about it. The populace was thronging about it. Men clustered about it, and kissed its feet as if it were a little baby. I loved it and embraced it as a wife. I laid it at your feet, and you made it complete with me." The mother of Gilgamesh, the wise, all-knowing, said to her lord, Ramat-Nin-Sun, the wise, all-knowing, said to Gilgamesh, As for the stars of the sky that had appeared, and the meteorite of Anu which fell next to you, you tried to lift it, but it was too mighty for you. You tried to turn it over, but were unable to budge it. You laid it down at my feet, and I made it complete with you, and you loved it and embraced it as a wife. There will come to you a mighty man, a comrade who saves his friend. He is the mightiest in the land. He is strongest. His strength is mighty as the meteorite of Anu. You loved him and embraced him as a wife, and it is he who will repeatedly save you. Your dream is good and propitious. A second time Gilgamesh said to his mother, Mother, I have had another dream. At the gateway of my marital chamber there lay an axe, and the people had collected about it, and the land of Uruk was standing about it. The whole land had assembled about it. The populace was thronging about it. I laid it at your feet. I loved it and embraced it as a wife, and you made it complete with me. The mother of Gilgamesh, the wise, the all-knowing, said to her son, Ramat-Ninsun, the wise, the all-knowing, said to Gilgamesh, The axe that you saw is a man. You love him and embrace him as a wife, but I have compete with you. There will come to you a mighty man, a comrade who saves his friend. He is the mightiest in the land. He is the strongest. He is as mighty as the meteorite of Anu. Gilgamesh spoke to his mother, saying, By the command of Enlil, the great counselor, so may it to pass. May I have a friend and adviser, a friend and an adviser I may have. You have interpreted for me the dreams about him. After the harlot recounted the dreams of Gilgamesh to Enkidu, the two of them made love. Enkidu sits in front of her. The next 30 lines are missing. Why? His own counsel, at his instruction, who knows his heart. Shemhat pulled off her clothing, and clothed him with one piece, while she clothed herself with the second. She took hold of him, as the gods do, and brought him to the hut of the shepherds. The shepherds gathered all around him. They marveled to themselves, how the youth resembles Gilgamesh, tall in stature, towering up to the battlements over the wall. Surely he was born in the mountains. His strength is as mighty as the meteorite of Anu. They placed food in front of him. They placed beer in front of him. Enkidu knew nothing about eating bread for food, and of drinking beer he had not been taught. The harlot spoke to Enkidu, saying, Eat the food, Enkidu, it is the way one lives. Drink the beer, as is the custom of the land. Enkidu ate the food until he was sated. He drank the beer, 7 jugs, and became expansive and sang with joy. He was elated, and his face glowed. He splashed his shaggy body with water, and rubbed himself with oil, and turned into a human. He put on some clothing, and became like a warrior. He took up his weapon and chased lions so that the shepherds could eat. He routed the wolves and chased the lions. With Enkidu as their guard, the herders could lie down. A wakeful man, a singular youth. He was twice as tall as normal men. The next 33 lines are missing in the standard version. Lines 57 to 86 are taken from Old Babylonian. Then he raised his eyes and saw a man. He said to the harlot, Shemhat, have the man go away. Why has he come? I will call out his name. The harlot called out to the man, and went over to him and spoke with him. Young man, why are you hurrying? Why this arduous pace? The young man spoke, saying to Enkidu, They have invited me to a wedding, as is the custom of the people, the selection of brides. I have heaped up tasty delights for the wedding on the ceremonial platter. For the king of broad-marted Uruk, open is the veil of the people for choosing a girl. For Gilgamesh, the king of broad-marted Uruk, open is the veil of the people for choosing. He will have intercourse with the destined wife. He first, the husband afterwards. This is ordered by the council of Anu. From the severing of his umbilical cord it had been destined for him. At the young man's speech, Enkidu's face flushed with anger. Several lines are missing. Enkidu walked in front, and Shemhat after him. He walked down the street of Uruk Haven, mighty. He blocked the way through Uruk the sheepfold. The land of Uruk stood around him. The whole land assembled about him. The populace was thronging about him. The men were clustered about him, and kissed his feet as if he were a little baby. Suddenly, a handsome young man, for Ishtar, the bed of night is ready. For Gilgamesh, as for a god, a counterpart is set up. Enkidu blocked the entry to the marital chamber, and would not allow Gilgamesh to be brought in. They grappled with each other at the entry to the marital chamber. In the street, they attacked each other, the public square of the land. The doorpost trembled, and the wall shook. About 42 lines are missing from the standard version. Lines 103 to 129 are taken from the Old Babylonian version. Gilgamesh bent his knees, with his other foot on the ground. His anger abated, and he turned his chest away. After he turned his chest, Enkidu said to Gilgamesh, "Your mother bore you ever unique, the wild cow of the enclosure, Ninsun. Your head is elevated over other men. Enlil has destined you for the kingship over the people." 19 lines are missing. They kissed each other and became friends. The Old Babylonian version becomes fragmentary. The standard version resumes. His strength is the mightiest in the land. His strength is as mighty as the meteorite of Anu. The mother of Gilgamesh spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, Ramat Ninsun said to her son, Remar Ninsun, my son, plaintively, she went up to Shamat's gateway. Plaintively she implored, Enkidu has no father or mother. His shaggy hair no one cuts. He was born in the wilderness. No one raised him. Enkidu was standing there and heard the speech. He and sat down and wept. His eyes filled with tears. His arms fell limp. His strength weakened. They took each other by the hand, and their hands like. Enkidu made a declaration to Gilgamesh. 32 lines are missing. In order to protect the cedar forest, Enlil assigned Humbaba as the terror to human beings. Humbaba's roar is a flood, his mouth is fire, and his breath is death. He can hear 100 leagues away any rustling in his forest. Who would go down to his forest? Enlil assigned him as a terror to human beings, and whoever goes down to his forest, paralysis will strike. Gilgamesh spoke to Enkidu, saying, What you say? About 42 lines are missing here from the standard version. Who, my friend, can ascend to the heavens? Only gods can dwell forever with Shamash. As for human beings, their days are numbered, and whatever they keep trying to achieve is but wind. Now you are afraid of death. What has become of your bold strength? I will go in front of you, and your mouth can call out, Go on closer, do not be afraid. Should I fall, I will have established my fame. They will say, It was Gilgamesh who locked in battle with Humbaba the Terrible. You were born and raised in the wilderness. A lion leaped upon you, so you have experienced it all. 5 lines here are fragmentary. I will undertake it, and I will cut down the cedar. It is I who will establish fame for eternity. Come, my friend, I will go over to the forge. I will have them cast their weapons in our presence. Holding each other by the hand, they went over to the forge. The standard version resumes. The craftsmen sat and discussed with one another. We should fashion the axe. The hatchet should he 1 talent in weight. Their sword should be 1 talent, their armor 1 talent, their armor. Gilgamesh said to the men of Uruk, Listen to me, men. 5 lines are missing here. You, men of Uruk, you know I want to make myself more mighty, and will go on a distant journey. I will face fighting such as I have never known. I will set out on a road I have never traveled. Give me your blessings. I will enter the city gate of Uruk. I will devote myself to the New Year's festival. I will perform the New Year's ceremonies in. The New Year's festival will take place. Celebrations. They will keep shouting, Hurrah, in. Enkidu spoke with the elders. What the men of Uruk say to him, he must nor go to the cedar forest. The journey is not to be made. A man who, the guardian of the cedar forest, the noble counselors of Uruk arose and delivered their advice to Gilgamesh. You are young, Gilgamesh. Your heart carries you off. You do not know what you are talking about. Gave birth to you. Humbaba's roar is a flood. His mouth is fire. His breath, death. He can hear any rustling in his forest 100 leagues away. Who would go down into his forest? Who among even the Igigi gods can confront him? And in order to keep the cedar safe, Enlil assigned him as a terror to human beings. Gilgamesh listened to the statement of the noble counselors. 5 lines are missing to the end of Tablet 2. The elders spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, Gilgamesh, do not put your trust in just your vast strength, but keep a sharp eye out. Make each blow strike and mark. The one who goes on ahead saves the comrade. The one who knows the route protects his friend. Let Enkidu go ahead of you. He knows the road to the cedar forest. He has seen fighting, has experienced battle. Enkidu will protect the friend, will keep the comrade safe. Let his body urge him back to the wives. In our assembly, we have entrusted the king to you, Enkidu. And, on your return, you must entrust the king back to us. Gilgamesh spoke to Enkidu, saying, Come on, my friend, let us go to Igalama Temple, to Ninsun, the great queen. Ninsun is all-wise, all-knowing. She will put the advisable path at our feet. Taking each other by the hand, Gilgamesh and Enkidu walked to the Igalama, the great palace, to Ninsun, the great queen. Gilgamesh rose and went to her. Ninsun, even though I am extraordinarily strong, I must now travel a long way to where Humbaba is. I must face fighting such as I have not known, and I must travel on a road that I do not know. Until the time that I can go and return, until I reach the cedar forest, until I kill Humbaba the Terrible and eradicate from the land something baneful that Shamash hates. Intercede with Shamash on my behalf. If I kill Humbaba and cut his cedar, let there be rejoicing all over the land, and I will erect a monument of the victory before you. The words of Gilgamesh, her son, grieving, Queen Ninsun heard over and over. Ninsun went to her living quarters. She washed herself with the purity plant. She donned a robe worthy of her body. She donned jewels worthy of her chest. She donned her sash and put on her crown. She sprinkled water from a bowl onto the ground. And then went up to the roof. She went up to the roof and set incense in front of Shamash. She offered fragrant cuttings and raised her arms to Shamash. Why have you inflicted a restless heart on my son Gilgamesh? Now you have touched him so that he wants to travel a long way to where Humbaba is. He will face fighting as he has not known. He will travel on a road that he does not know. Until he goes away and returns, until he reaches the cedar forest, until he kills Humbaba the Terrible, and eradicates from the land something baneful that you hate. On the day that you see him on the road, may Aja, the bride, without fear remind you, and command also the watchmen of the night, the stars, and at night your father, Sin. She banked up the incense and uttered the ritual words. She called to Enkidu, and would give him instructions. Enkidu, the mighty, you are not of my womb. But now I speak to you along with the sacred votaries of Gilgamesh, the high priestess, the holy women, the temple servers. She laid a pendant on Enkidu's neck. The high priestess took, and the daughters of the gods, I have taken Enkidu to Gilgamesh I have taken. until he goes and returns, until he reaches the cedar forest, be it a month, be it a year. About 11 lines are missing. The gate of Cedar. Enkidu in the temple of Shamash. Gilgamesh in the Igalma. He made an offering of cuttings, the sons of the king. Around 60 lines are missing from here. Enkidu will protect the friend, will keep the comrade safe. Let his body urge him back to the wives. In our assembly we have entrusted the king to you, and on your return you must entrust the king back to us. Enkidu spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, My friend, turn back. The road. The last lines of Tablet 3 are missing. At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night. Walking 50 leagues in a whole day, a walk of a month and a half. On the third day they drew near to Lebanon. They dug a well facing Shamash, the setting sun. Gilgamesh climbed up a mountain peak, made a libation of flour, and said, Mountain, mountain, bring me a dream, a favorable message from Shamash. Enkidu prepared a sleeping place for him for the night. A violent wind passed through, so he attached a covering. He made him lie down, and, in a circle, they, like a grain from the mountain. While Gilgamesh rested his chin on his knees, sleep that pours over mankind took him. In the middle of the night, his sleep came to an end. So he got up and said to his friend, My friend, did you not call out to me? Why did I wake up? Did you not touch me? Why am I so disturbed? Did a god pass by? Why are my muscles trembling? Enkidu, my friend, I have had a dream, and the dream I had was deeply disturbing. In the mountain gorges, the mountain fell down on us, wet like flies. He who was born in the wilderness. Enkidu interpreted the dream for his friend. My friend, your dream is favorable. The dream is extremely important. My friend, the mountain which you saw in the dream is Humbaba. It means we will capture Humbaba and kill him and throw his corpse into the wasteland. In the morning there will be a favorable message from Shamash. At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night, walking 50 leagues in a whole day, a walk of a month and a half. They dug a well facing Shamash. Gilgamesh climbed up the mountain peak, made a libation of flour, and said, Mountain, bring me a dream, a favorable message from Shamash. Enkidu prepared a sleeping place for him for the night. A violent wind passed, so he attached a covering. He made him lie down, and, in a circle, they, like grain from the mountain. While Gilgamesh rested his chin on his knees, sleep that pours over mankind took him. In the middle of the night his sleep came to an end, so he got up and said to his friend, My friend, did you not call out to me? Why did I wake up? Did you not touch me? Why am I so disturbed? Did a god pass by? Why are my muscles trembling? Enkidu, my friend, I have had a dream. Besides my first dream, a second. And the dream I had so striking, so disturbing. I was grappling with a wild bull of the wilderness. With his bellow he spit the ground, a cloud of dust to the sky. I sank to my knees in front of him. He holds that encircled my arm. My tongue hung out. My temples throbbed. He gave me water to drink from his water skin. My friend, the god to whom we go is not the wild bull. He is totally different. The wild bull that you saw is Shamash, the protector. In difficulties, he holds our hand. The one who gave you the water to drink from his water skin is your personal god, who brings honor to you, Lugalbanda. We should join together and do one thing, a deed such as never been done in this land. At 20 leagues, they broke for some food. At 30 leagues, they stopped for the night, walking 50 leagues in a whole day, a walk of a month and a half. They dug a well facing Shamash. Gilgamesh climbed up a mountain peak, made a libation of flour, and said, "Mountain, bring me a dream, a favorable message from Shamash." Enkidu prepared a sleeping place for him for the night. A violent wind passed through, so he attached a covering. He made him lie down, and, in a circle, they, like a grain from the mountain. While Gilgamesh rested his chin on his knees, sleep that pours over mankind took him. In the middle of the night, his sleep came to an end, so he got up and said to his friend, "My friend, did you not call out to me? Why did I wake up? Did you not touch me? Why am I so disturbed? Did a god pass by? Why are my muscles trembling?" "Enkidu, my friend, I have had a third dream, and the dream I had was deeply disturbing. The heavens roared, and the earth rumbled. It became deathly still, and darkness loomed. A bolt of lightning cracked, and a fire broke out, and where it kept thickening, there reigned death. Then the hot white name dimmed, and the fire went out, and everything that had been falling around turned to ash. Let us go down into the plain so we can talk it over." Enkidu heard the dream that he had presented and said to Gilgamesh. About 40 lines are missing from this section of the tablet. At 20 leagues, they broke for some food. At 30 leagues, they stopped for the night. Walking 50 leagues in a whole day, a walk of a month and a half. They dug a well facing Shamash. Gilgamesh climbed up a mountain peak, made a libation of flour, and said, "Mountain, bring me a dream, a favorable message from Shamash." Enkidu prepared a sleeping place for him for the night. A violent wind passed, so he attached a covering. He made him lie down, and, in a circle, they, like a grain from the mountain. While Gilgamesh rested his chin on his knees, sleep that pours over mankind took him. In the middle of the night, his sleep came to an end, so he got up and said to his friend, "My friend, did you not call out to me? Why did I wake up? Did you not touch me? Why am I so disturbed? Did a god pass by? Why are my muscles trembling?" "Enkidu, my friend, I have had a fourth dream, and the dream I had was deeply disturbing." About 11 lines are missing. He was cubits tall, Gilgamesh. Enkidu listened to his dream. "The dream you had is favorable. It is extremely important. My friend, this Humbaba Ik. Before it becomes light, we will achieve victory over him. Humbaba, against who we rage, we will, and triumph over him. In the morning, there will be a favorable message from Shamash. At 20 leagues, they broke for some food. At 30 leagues, they stopped for the night, walking 50 leagues in a whole day, a walk of a month and a half. They dug a well facing Shamash. Gilgamesh climbed up a mountain peak, made a libation of flour, and said, "Mountain, bring me a dream, a favorable message from Shamash." Enkidu prepared a sleeping place for him for the night. A violent wind passed through, so he attached a covering. He made him lie down, and, in a circle, they, like a grain from the mountain. While Gilgamesh rested his chin on his knees, sleep that pours over mankind took him. In the middle of the night, his sleep came to an end, so he got up and said to his friend, "My friend, did you not call out to me? Why did I wake up? Did you not touch me? Why am I so disturbed? Did a god pass by? Why are my muscles trembling?" Enkidu, my friend, I've had a fifth dream, and the dream I had was deeply disturbing. His tears were running in the presence of Shamash. "What you said in Uruk, be mindful of it. Stand by me. Gilgamesh, the offspring of Uruk Haven." Shamash heard what issued from his mouth. And suddenly there was a resounding warning from the sky. Hurry, stand by him so that he, Humbaba, does not enter the forest, and does not go down into the thicket and hide. He has not put on his 7 coats of armor. He is wearing only 1, but has taken off 6. They lunge at each other like raging wild bulls. The one he bellowed full of, the guardian of the forest bellowed. Humbaba, like, only one cannot. Strangers. A slippery path is not feared by 2 people who help each other. Twice, 3 times, the 3-ply rope cannot be cut. The mighty lioness cubs can roll him over. Enkidu spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, as soon as we have gone down into the cedar forest, let us split open the tree and strip off its branches. Gilgamesh spoke to Enkidu, saying, why, my friend, we so wretchedly? We have crossed over the mountains together. In front of us, we have cut down the cedar. My friend, you who are so experienced in battle, who, fighting, you, and need not fear death. Let your voice bellow forth like the kettle drum. Let the stiffness in your arms depart. Let the paralysis of your legs go away. Take my hand, my friend. We will go on together. Your heart should burn to do battle. Pay no heed to death. Do not lose heart. The one who watches from the side is a careful man, but the one who walks in front protects himself and saves his comrade. And through their fighting, they establish fame. As the 2 of them reached the evergreen forest, they cut off their talk and stood still. They stood at the forest's edge, gazing at the top of the cedar tree, gazing at the entrance to the forest. Where Humbaba would walk, there was a trail. The roads led straight on. The path was excellent. Then they saw the cedar mountain, the dwelling of the gods, the throne dais of Imini. Across the face of the mountain, the cedar brought forth luxurious foliage. Its shade was good, extremely pleasant. The thorn bushes were matted together. The woods were a thicket. Among the cedars, the boxwood, the forest was surrounded by a ravine 2 leagues long. And again, for 2/3 of that distance, suddenly the swords, and after the sheaths, the axes were smeared, dagger and sword alone. Humbaba spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, he does not come? Enil. Enkidu spoke to Humbaba, saying, Humbaba, one alone, strangers. A slippery path is not feared by 2 people who help each other. Twice, 3 times, a 3-ply rope cannot be cut. The mighty lion, 2 cubs can roll over him. Humbaba spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, an idiot and a moron should give advice to each other, but you, Gilgamesh, why have you come to me? Give advice, Enkidu, you son of fish, who does not even know his own father. To the large and the small turtles which do not suck their mother's milk. When you were still young, I saw you, but did not go over to you, in my belly. You have brought Gilgamesh into my presence. You stand an enemy, a stranger. Gilgamesh, throat and neck. I would feed your flesh to the screeching vulture, the eagle, and the vulture. Gilgamesh spoke to Enkidu, saying, my friend, Humbaba's face keeps changing. Enkidu spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, why, my friend, are you whining so pitiably, hiding behind your whimpering? Now, there, my friend, in the coppersmith's channel, again, to blow the bellows for an hour, the glowing metal for an hour, to send the flood, to crack the whip. Do not snatch your feet away, do not turn back, strike even harder. May they be expelled, head fell, and he confronted him. The ground split open with the heels of their feet. As they whirled around in circles, Mount Hermon and Lebanon split. The white clouds darkened. Death rained down on them like fog. Shamash raised up against Humbaba's mighty tempests, south wind, north wind, east wind, west wind, whistling wind, piercing wind, blizzard, bad wind, wind of Simuru, demon wind, ice wind, storm, sandstorm. 13 winds rose up against him and covered Humbaba's face. He could not butt through the front, he could not scramble out the back, so that Gilgamesh's weapons were in reach of Humbaba. Humbaba begged for his life, saying to Gilgamesh, "You are young yet, Gilgamesh. Your mother gave birth to you, and you are of the offspring of Ramattan and Sun. It was you, at the word of Shamash, lord of the mountain, that you rousted to this expedition. O Sion, of heart of Uruk, King Gilgamesh, 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 let me go. I will dwell with you as your servant. As many trees as you command me I will cut down for you. I will guard for you myrtle wood, wood fine enough for your palace." Enkidu addressed Gilgamesh, saying, "My friend, do not listen to Humbaba. The following lines are missing. You understand the rules of my forest, the rules. Further, you are aware of the order of things, so ordered by Enlil. I should have carried you up and killed you at the very entrance to the branches of my forest. I should have fed your flesh to the screeching vulture, the eagle, and the vulture. So now, Enkidu, clemency is upon you. Speak to Gilgamesh and spare my life." Enkidu addressed Gilgamesh, saying, "My friend, Humbaba, guardian of the cedar forest. Grind up, kill, pulverize, and destroy him. Humbaba, guardian of the cedar forest. Grind up, kill, pulverize, and destroy him. Before the preeminent god Enlil hears, and the gods be filled with rage against us. Enlil is in Nippur. Shamash is in Sippar. Erect an eternal monument proclaiming how Gilgamesh killed Humbaba." When Humbaba heard, about 10 lines are missing. The forest, the denunciations have been made, but you are sitting there like a shepherd, and like a hiring of his mouth. May he not live longer of the two. May Enkidu not have any share more than his friend Gilgamesh. Enkidu spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, "My friend, I have been talking to you, but you have not been listening to me. You have been listening to the curse of Humbaba." His friend, by his side, they pulled out his insides, including his tongue. He jumped. Abundance fell over the mountain. Abundance fell over the mountain. They cut through the cedar. While Gilgamesh cuts down the trees, Enkidu searches through the Urmazalu. Enkidu addresses Gilgamesh, saying, "My friend, we have cut down the towering cedar whose top scrapes the sky. Make from it a door, 72 cubits high, 24 cubits wide, 1 cubit thick. Its fixture, its lower and upper pivots will be out of one piece. Let them carry it to Nippur. The Euphrates will carry it down. Nippur will rejoice." They tied together a raft. Enkidu steered it, while Gilgamesh held the head of Humbaba. He washed out his marred hair and cleaned his equipment, shaking out his locks down over his back, throwing off his dirty clothes and putting on new ones. He wrapped himself in regal garments and fashioned the sash. When Gilgamesh placed his crown on his head, the princess Ishtar raised her eyes to the beauty of Gilgamesh. "Come along, Gilgamesh, be you my husband, to me grant your lusciousness. Be you my husband, and I will be your wife. I will have harnessed for you a chariot of lapis lazuli and gold, with wheels of gold and horns of electrum. It will be harnessed with great storming mountain mules. Come into our house with the fragrance of cedar. And when you come into our house, the doorpost and the throne dais will kiss your feet. Bowed down before you will be kings, lords, and princes. The Lullaby people will bring you the produce of the mountains and countryside as tribute. Your she-goats will bear triplets, and your ewes twins. Your donkey under burden will overtake the mule. Your steed at the chariot will be bristling to gallop. Your axe at the yoke will have no match. Gilgamesh addressed Princess Ishtar, saying, "What would I have to give you if I married you? Do you need oil or garments for your body? Do you lack anything for food or drink? I would gladly feed you food fit for a god. I would gladly give you wine fit for a king. May the street be your home. May you be clothed in a garment, and may any lusting man marry you. An oven who ice, a half-door that keeps out neither breeze nor blast, a palace that crushes down valiant warriors, an elephant who devours its own covering, pitch that blackens the hands of its bearer, a waterskin that soaks its bearer through, limestone that buckles out of the stone wall, a battering ram that attracts the enemy to his land, a shoe that bites its owner's feet. Where are your bridegrooms that you keep forever? Where is your little shepherd bird that went up over you? See, here now I will recite the list of your lovers. Of the shoulder, his hand, Tammuz, the lover of your earliest youth. For him you have ordained lamentations year upon year. You loved the colorful little shepherd bird, and then hit him, breaking his wing. So now he stands in the forest crying, "My wing." You loved the supremely mighty lion, yet you dug for him 7 and again 7 pits. You loved the stallion, famed in battle, yet you ordained him for the whip, the goad, and the lash, ordained him to gallop for 7 and 7 hours, ordained him drinking from muddied waters. You ordained far his mother Salili to wail continually. You loved the shepherd, the mass herder, who continually presented you with bread baked in embers, and who daily slaughtered for you a kid. Yet you struck him, and turned him into a wolf. So his own shepherds will now chase him, and his own dogs will snap at his shins. You loved Ishulanu, your father's date gardener, who continually brought you baskets of dates, and brightened your table daily. You raised your eyes to him, and you went to him. Oh, my Ishulanu, let us taste of your strength. Stretch out your hand to me, and touch our vulva. Ishulanu said to you, "Me? What is it you want from me? Has my mother not baked, and have I not eaten? That I should now eat food under contempt and curses, and that alfalfa grass should not be my only cover against the cold?" As you listened to his words, you struck him, turning him into a dwarf, and made him live in the middle of his garden of labors, where the Mihu did not go up nor the bucket of dates down. And now me. Is it me you love, and you will ordain for me as for them? When Ishtar heard this, in a fury she went up to the heavens, going to Anu, her father, and crying, going to Anrum, her mother, and weeping, "Father, Gilgamesh has insulted me over and over. Gilgamesh has recounted despicable deeds about me, despicable deeds and curses." Anu addressed Princess Ishtar, saying, "What is the matter? Was it not you who provoked King Gilgamesh? So Gilgamesh recounted despicable deeds about you, despicable deeds and curses?" Ishtar spoke to her father Anu, saying, "Father, give me the bull of heaven, so he can kill Gilgamesh in his dwelling. If you do not give me the bull of heaven, I will knock down the gates of the netherworld. I will smash the doorposts, and leave the doors flat down. I will let the dead go up and eat the living, and the dead will outnumber the living." Anu addressed Princess Ishtar, saying, "If you demand the bull of heaven from me, there will be 7 years of empty husks for the land of Uruk. Have you collected grain for the people? Have you made grasses grow for the animals?" Ishtar addressed Anu, her father, saying, "I have heaped grain in the granaries for the people. I have made grasses grow for the animals, in order that they might eat for 7 years of empty husks. I have collected grain for the people. I have made grasses grow for the animals. When Anu heard her words, he placed the nose rope of the bowl of heaven in her hand. Ishtar led the bowl down to earth. When it reached Uruk, it climbed down the Euphrates. At the snort of the bowl of heaven, a huge pit opened, and 100 young men of Uruk fell in. At his second snort, a huge pit opened, and 200 young men of Uruk fell in. At his third snort, a huge pit opened up, and Enkidu fell in up to his waist. Then Enkidu jumped out and seized the bull of heaven by its horns. The bull spewed his spittle in front of him. With his thick tail he flung his dung behind them. Enkidu addressed Gilgamesh, saying, "My friend, we can be bold. How shall we respond? My friend, I saw, and my strength I will rip out. I and you, we must share. I shall grasp the bull. I will fill my hands in front. Between the nape, the horns, thrust your sword." Enkidu stalked and hunted down the bull of heaven. He grasped it by the thick of its tail and held on to it with both hands, while Gilgamesh, like an expert butcher, boldly and surely approached the bull of heaven, between the nape, the horns, and he thrust his sword. After they had killed the bull of heaven, they ripped out its heart and presented it to Shamash. They withdrew, bowing down humbly to Shamash. Then the brothers sat down together. Ishtar went up onto the top of the wall of a rock haven, cast herself into a pose of mourning, and hurled her woeful curse. "Woe unto Gilgamesh, who slandered me and killed the bull of heaven." When Enkidu heard this pronouncement of Ishtar, he wrenched off the bull's hindquarter and flung it in her face. "If only I could get at you, I would do the same to you. I would drape his innards over your arms." Ishtar assembled the cultic women of lovely locks, joy girls, and harlots, and set them to mourning over the hind quarter of the bull. Gilgamesh summoned all the artisans and craftsmen. The artisans admired the thickness of its horns, each fashioned from 30 minas of lapis lazuli, 2 fingers thick as their casting. 6 vats of oil, the contents of the 2, he gave as ointment to his god Lugalbandia. He brought the horns in and hung them in the bedroom of the family head. They washed their hands in the Euphrates, and proceeded hand in hand, striding through the streets of Uruk. The men of Uruk gathered together, staring at them. Gilgamesh said to the palace retainers, "Who is the bravest of men? Who is the boldest of the males?" "Gilgamesh is the bravest of men, the boldest of the males. She at whom we flung the hindquarter of the bull of heaven in anger, Ishtar has no one that pleases her in the streets." Gilgamesh held a celebration in his palace. The young men dozed off, sleeping on the couches of the night. Enkidu was sleeping. He had a dream. He woke up and revealed his dream to his friend. "My friend, why are the great gods in conference?" "In my dream, Anu, Enlil, and Shamash held a council, and Anu spoke to Enlil. Because they killed the bull of heaven and have also slain Humbaba, one of them who pulled up the cedar of the mountain must die." Enlil said, "Let Enkidu die, but Gilgamesh must not die." But the sun god of heaven replied to the valiant Enlil, "Was it not at my command that they killed the bull of heaven and Humbaba? Should now innocent Enkidu die?" Then Enlil became angry at Shamash, saying, "It is you who are responsible, because you traveled daily with them as their friend." Enkidu was lying sick in front of Gilgamesh, his tears flowing like canals. Gilgamesh said, "O brother, dear brother, why are they absolving me instead of my brother?" Then Enkidu said, "So now I become a ghost, to sit with the ghosts of the dead, to see my dear brother nevermore. In the cedar forest where the great gods dwell, I did not kill the cedar." Enkidu addressed Gilgamesh, saying to Gilgamesh, his friend, "Come, friend, the door." Enkidu raised his eyes and spoke to the door as if it were human. "You stupid wooden door, with no ability to understand. Already at 10 leagues I selected the wood for you, until I saw the towering cedar. Your wood was without compare in my eyes. 72 cubits was your height, 14 cubits your width, 1 cubit your thickness. Your doorpost, pivot stone, and post cap, I fashioned you, and I carried you to Nippur. Had I known, O door, that this would be your gratitude, and this your gratitude, I would have taken an axe and chopped you down, and lashed your planks in two. In it I erect and in Uruk they heard. But yet, O door, I fashioned you, and carried you to Nippur. May a king who comes after me reject you. May he remove my name and set his own name there. He ripped out, threw down. Gilgamesh kept listening to his words and retorted quickly. Gilgamesh listened to the words of Enkidu, his friend, and his tears flowed. Gilgamesh addressed Enkidu, saying, "Friend, the gods have given you a mind broad, and, though it behooves you to be sensible, you keep uttering improper things. Why, my friend, does your mind utter improper things? The dream is important, but very frightening. Your lips are buzzing like flies. Though there is much fear, the dream is very important. To the living, they leave sorrow. To the living, the dream leaves pain. I will pray and beseech the great gods. I will seek and appeal to your god, Enlil, the father of the gods, Enlil, the counselor, you. I will fashion a statue of you of gold without measure. Do not worry, gold. What Enlil says is not. What he says cannot go back. Cannot. What? He was laid down and cannot go back. Cannot. My friend, a fate goes to mankind." Just as the dawn began to glow, Enkidu raised his head and cried out to Shamash. At the first gleam of the sun, his tears poured forth. "I appeal to you, O Shamash, on behalf of my precious life, because of that notorious trapper, who did not let me attain the same as my friend. May the trapper not get enough to feed himself. May his profit be slashed, his wages decrease. May be share before you. May he not enter, but go out like a vapor." After he had cursed the trapper to his satisfaction, his heart prompted him to curse the harlot. "Come now, harlot, I am to decree your fate, a fate that will never come for an end for eternity. I will curse you with a great curse. May my curses overwhelm you suddenly in an instant. May you not be able to make a household. May you not be able to love a child of your own. May you not dwell in the girls. May dregs of beer stain your beautiful lap. May a drunk soil your festal robe with a vomit, the beautiful of the potter. May you never acquire anything of bright alabaster. May the judge, may shining silver, man's delight, not be cast into your house. May a gateway be where you rake your pleasure. May a crossroad be your home. May a wasteland be your sleeping place. May the shadow of the city wall be your place to stand. May the thorns and briars skin your feet. May both the drunk and the dry slap you on the cheek. In your city streets. May owls nest in the cracks of your walls. May no parties take place present, and your filthy lap may be his, because of me, while I, blameless, you have against me." When Shamash heard what his mouth had uttered, he suddenly called out to him from the sky, "Enkidu, why are you cursing the harlot Shumhat? She who has fed you bread fit for a god, she who gave you wine fit for a king, she who dressed you in grand garments, and she who allowed you to make beautiful Gilgamesh your comrade. Now Gilgamesh is your beloved brother friend. He will have you lie on a grand couch, will have you lie on a couch of honor. He will seat you in the seat of ease, the seat at his left, so that the princes of the world would kiss your feet. He would have the people of Uruk go into mourning and moaning over you, will fill the happy people with a woe over you. And after you, he will let his body bear a filthy mat of hair, will don the skin of a lion and roam the wilderness." As soon as Enkidu heard the words of the valiant Shamash, his agitated heart grew calm, his anger abated. Enkidu spoke to the harlot, saying, Come, Shamhat, I will decree your fate for you. Let my mouth, which has cursed you, now turn to bless you. May governors and nobles love you. May he who is 1 league away bite his lip in anticipation of you. May he who is 2 leagues away shake out his locks in preparation. May the soldier not refuse you, but undo his buckle for you. May he give you rock crystal, lapis lazuli, and gold. May his gift to you be earrings of filigree. May his supplies be heaped up. May he bring you into of the gods. May the wife, mother of 7 children, be abandoned because of you. Enkidu's innards were churning, lying there, so alone. He spoke everything he felt, saying to his friend, "Listen, my friend, to the dream that I had last night. The heavens cried out, and the earth replied, and I was standing between them. There appeared a man of dark visage. His face resembled Anzu. His hands were the paws of lions, his nails the talons of an eagle. He seized me by the hair and overpowered me. I struck him a blow, but he skipped about like a jump rope. And then he struck me and capsized me like a raft. He trampled on me like a wild bull. He encircled my whole body in a clamp. 'Help me, my friend,' I cried, 'but you did not rescue me. You were afraid and did not.' Then he turned me into a dove, so that my arms were feathered like a bird. Seizing me, he led me down to the house of darkness, the dwelling of Virokala, to the house where those who enter do not come out, along the road of no return, to the house where those who dwell do without light, where dirt is their drink and their food is clay, where, like a bird, they wear garments of feathers, and light cannot be seen. They dwell in the dark, and upon the door and bolt there lies dust. On entering the house of dust, everywhere I looked there were royal crowns gathered in heaps. Everywhere I listened, it was the bearers of crowns, who, in the past, had ruled the land, but who now served Anu and Anil, cooked meats, served confections, and poured cool waters from waterskins. In the house of dust that I entered, there sat the high priest and acolyte. There sat the purification priest and ecstatic. There sat the anointed priests of the great gods. There sat Etana. There sat Sumokan. There sat Ereshkigal, the queen of the netherworld. Belet Seri, the scribe of the netherworld, knelt before her. She was holding the tablet and was reading it out to Ereshkigal. She raised her head when she saw me. Who has taken this man? 50 lines are missing. I, who went through every difficulty, remember me and forget not all that I went through with you. My friend has had a dream that bodies ill. That day he had the dream came to an end. Enkidu lies down a first day, a second day, that Enkidu in his bed, a third day and a fourth day, that Enkidu in his bed, a fifth day, a sixth day, a seventh, that Enkidu in his bed, an eighth, a ninth, a tenth, that Enkidu in his bed. Enkidu's illness grew ever worse. Enkidu drew up from his bed and called out to Gilgamesh, "My friend hates me." While he talked with me in Uruk as I was afraid of the battle, he encouraged me. My friend who saved me in battle has now abandoned me. I and you... 20 lines are missing. At his noises, Gilgamesh was roused. Like a dove, he moaned, "May he not be held in death, O preeminent among men, to his friend. I will mourn him, I at his side." Just as day began to dawn, Gilgamesh addressed his friend, saying, "Enkidu, your mother the gazelle, and your father the wild donkey, engendered you. 4 wild asses raised you on their milk, and the herds taught you all the grazing lands. May the roads of Enkidu to the cedar forest mourn you, and not fall silent night or day. May the elders of the broad city of Uruk Haven mourn you. May the peoples who gave their blessing after us mourn you. May the men of the mountains and hills mourn you. May the..." May the pasture land shriek in mourning as if it were your mother. May the cypress and the cedar which we destroyed in our anger mourn you. May the bear, hyena, panther, tiger, water buffalo, jackal, lion, wild bull, stag, ibex, all the creatures of the plains mourn you. May the holy river Ulaja, along whose banks we grandly used to stroll, mourn you. May the pure Euphrates, to which we would labate water for our waterskins, mourn you. May the men of Uruk haven, whom we saw in our battle when we killed the bull of heaven, mourn you. May the farmer who extols your name in his sweet work-song mourn you. May the of the broad city who exalted your name mourn you. May the herder who prepared butter and light beer for your mouth mourn you. May who put ointments on your back mourn you. May who prepared fine beer in your mouth mourn you. May the harlot you rubbed yourself with oil and felt good mourn you. May of the wife placed a ring on you mourn you. May the brothers go into mourning over you like sisters. The lamentation priests, may their hair be shone off on your behalf. Enkidu, your mother, and your father are in the wastelands. I mourn you. Hear me, O elders of Uruk. Hear me, O men. I mourn for Enkidu, my friend. I shriek in anguish like a mourner. You, axe at my side, so trusty in my hand. You, sword at my waist, shield in front of me. You, my festal garment, a sash over my loins. An evil demon appeared and took him away from me. My friend, the swift mule, fleet wild ass of the mountain, panther of the wilderness, Enkidu. My friend, the swift mule, fleet wild ass of the mountain, panther of the wilderness. After we joined together and went up into the mountain, fought the bull of heaven and killed it, and overwhelmed Humbaba who lived in the cedar forest. Now, what is this sleep that has seized you? You have turned dark and do not hear me. But his eyes do not move. He touched his heart, but it beat no longer. He covered his friend's face like a bride, swooping down over him like an eagle. And, like a lioness depraved of her cubs, he keeps pacing to and fro. He shears off his curls and heaps them onto the ground, ripping off his finery and casting it away as an abomination. Just as the day began to dawn, Gilgamesh and issued a call to the land. You, blacksmith, you, lapidary, you, coppersmith, you, goldsmith, you, jeweler, create my friend, fashion a statue of him. He fashioned a statue of his friend. His features: your chest will be of lapis lazuli, your skin will be of gold. 10 lines are missing. I had you recline on the great couch, indeed, on the couch of honor I let you recline. I had sit you in a position of ease, a seat at the left, so the princes of the world kissed your feet. I had the people of Uruk mourn and moan for you. I filled happy people over woe for you. And after you died, I let a filthy mat of hair grow over my body, and donned the skin of a lion and roamed the wilderness. Just as the day began to dawn, he undid his straps. I, Carnelian. 85 lines are missing. To my friend, your dagger. To Bibi. 40 lines are missing. The judge of Anunnaki. When Gilgamesh heard this, the Zikru of the river he created. Just as day began to dawn, Gilgamesh opened and brought out a big table of sisu wood. A carnelian bowl he filled with honey. A lapis lazuli bowl he filled with butter. He provided and displayed it before Shamash. All of the last column, 40 to 50 lines, is missing. Over his friend Enkidu, Gilgamesh cried bitterly, roaming the wilderness. I'm gonna die. Am I not like Enkidu? Deep sadness penetrates my core. I fear death, and now roam the wilderness. I will set out to the region of Unapishtim, son of Ubartutu, and I will go with utmost dispatch. When I arrived at the mountain passes at nightfall, I saw lions, and I was terrified. I raised my head in prayer to Sin, to the great lady of the gods. My supplications poured forth, save me from... He was sleeping in the night, but awoke with a start with a dream. A warrior enjoyed his life. He raised his axe in his hand, drew the dagger from his sheath, and fell into their midst like an arrow. He struck, and he scattered them, the name of the former, the name of the second. 26 lines are missing. The scorpion beings. The mountain is called Mashu. Then he reached Mount Mashu, which daily guards the rising and setting of the sun, above which only the dome of the heavens reaches, and whose flank reaches as far as the netherworld below. There were scorpion beings watching over its gate, trembling terror they inspire. The sight of them is death. Their frightening aura sweeps over the mountains. At the rising and setting, they watch over the sun. When Gilgamesh saw them, trembling terror blanketed his face, but he pulled himself together and drew near to them. The scorpion being called out to his female, "He who comes to us, his body is the flesh of gods." The scorpion being, his female, answered him, "Only 2/3 of him is God, 1/3 of him is human." The male scorpion being called out, saying to the offspring of the gods, "Why have you traveled so distant a journey? Why have you come here to me? Our rivers whose crossing is treacherous. I want to learn 16 lines are missing. I have come on account of my ancestor Unapishtim, who joined the assembly of the gods and was given eternal life. About death and life I must ask him." The scorpion being spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, "Never has there been, Gilgamesh, a mortal man who could do that. No one has crossed through the mountains. For 12 leagues it is darkness throughout. Dense is the darkness, and light there is none. To the rising sun, to the setting sun, to the setting sun, they cause to go out." 67 lines are missing. "Though it be in deep sadness and pain, in cold or heat, gasping after breath, I will go on. Now, open the gate." The scorpion being spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, "Go on, Gilgamesh, fear not. The Mashu mountains I give to you freely. The mountains, the ranges, you may traverse. In safety may your feet carry you. The gate of the mountain." As soon as Gilgamesh heard this, he heeded the utterances of the scorpion being. Along the road of the sun he journeyed. 1 league he traveled. Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see. 2 leagues he traveled. Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see. 22 lines are missing. 4 leagues he traveled. Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see. 5 leagues he traveled. Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see. 6 leagues he traveled. Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see. 7 leagues he traveled. Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see. 8 leagues he traveled, and cried out, "Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see." 9 leagues he traveled. The north wind, it licked his face. Dense was the darkness. Light there was none. Neither what lies ahead nor behind does it allow him to see. 10 leagues he traveled. Is near. 4 leagues. 11 leagues he traveled, and came out before the sunrise. 12 leagues he traveled, and it grew brilliant. It bears lapis lazuli as foliage, bearing fruit, a delight to look upon. 25 lines are missing here. Cedar, a gate, of the sea, lapis lazuli, like thorns and briars, carnelian, rubies, hematite, like emeralds, of the sea. Gilgamesh, walking onward, raised his eyes and saw. The tavern keeper Sitsuri, who lives by the seashore. She lives. The pot stand was made for her. The gold fermenting vat was made for her. She is covered with a veil. Gilgamesh was roving about, wearing a skin, having the flesh of the gods in his body, but sadness deep within him. Looking like one who has been traveling a long distance, the tavern keeper was gazing off into the distance, puzzling to herself. She said, wondering to herself, "That fellow is surely a murderer. Where is he heading?" As soon as the tavern keeper saw him, she bolted her door, bolted her gate, bolted the lock. But at her noise, Gilgamesh pricked up his ears, lifted his chin to look about, and then laid his eyes on her. Gilgamesh spoke to the tavern keeper, saying, "Tavern keeper, what have you seen that made you bolt your door, bolt your gate, bolt the lock? If you do not let me in, I will break your door and smash the lock." The wilderness. Gilgamesh. The tavern keeper Sitsuri, who lives by the seashore. She lives. The pot stand was made for her. The gold fermenting vat was made for her. She is covered with a veil. Gilgamesh was roving about, wearing a skin, having the flesh of the gods in his body, but sadness deep within him. Looking like one who has been traveling a long distance, the tavern keeper was gazing off into the distance, puzzling to herself. She said, wondering to herself, "That fellow is surely a murderer. Where is he heading?" As soon as the tavern keeper saw him, she bolted her door, bolted her gate, bolted the lock. But at her noise Gilgamesh pricked up his ears, lifted his chin to look about, and then laid eyes on her. Gilgamesh spoke to the tavern keeper, saying, "Tavern keeper, what have you seen that made you bolt your door, bolt your gate, bolt the lock? If you do not let me in, I will break your door and smash the lock." The wilderness. Gilgamesh. Gate. Gilgamesh said to the tavern keeper, "I am Gilgamesh. I killed the guardian. I destroyed Humbaba, who lived in the cedar forest. I slew lions in the mountain passes. I grappled with the bull that came down from heaven and killed him." The tavern keeper spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, "If you are Gilgamesh, who killed the guardian, who destroyed Humbaba, who lived in the cedar forest, who slew lions in the mountain passes, who grappled with the bull that came down from heaven and killed him, why are your cheeks emaciated, your expression desolate? Why is your heart so wretched, your features so haggard? Why is there such sadness deep within you? Why do you look like one who has been traveling a long distance, so that ice and heat have seared your face? You roam the wilderness." Gilgamesh spoke to her, to the tavern keeper. He said, "Tavern keeper, should not my cheeks be emaciated? Should not my heart be so wretched, my features so haggard? Should there not be a deep sadness within me? Should I not look like one who has been traveling a long distance? And should ice and heat not have seared my face? Should I not roam the wilderness? My friend, the wild ass who chased the wild donkey, panther of the wilderness, Enkidu, the wild ass who chased the wild donkey, panther of the wilderness. We joined together and went up into the mountain. We grappled and killed the bull of heaven. We destroyed Humbaba, who lived in the cedar forest. We slew lions in the mountain passes. My friend, whom I love deeply, who I went through every hardship with me, Enkidu, whom I love deeply, who went through every hardship with me. The fate of mankind has overtaken him. 6 days and 7 nights I mourned over him, and would not allow him to be buried, until a maggot fell out of his nose. I was terrified by his appearance. I began to fear death, so I roamed the wilderness. The issue of my friend oppresses me, so I have been roaming long trails through the wilderness. The issue of Enkidu, my friend, oppresses me, so I have been roaming the long roads through the wilderness. How can I stay silent? How can I be still? My friend whom I love has turned to clay. Am I not like him? Will I lie down, never to get up again? Gilgamesh spoke with the tavern keeper, saying, So now, tavern keeper, what is the way to Napishtim? Where are its markers? Give them to me. Give me the markers. If possible, I will cross the sea. If not, I will roam through the wilderness. The tavern keeper spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, There has never been, Gilgamesh, any passage whatever. There has never been anyone since the days of yore who crossed the sea. The only one who crosses the sea is the valiant Shamash, except for him who can cross. The crossing is difficult. Its ways are treacherous. And in between are the waters of death that bar its approaches. And even if, Gilgamesh, you should cross the sea, when you reach the waters of death, what would you do? Gilgamesh, over there is Urshanabi, the ferryman of Unapishtim. The stone things, I are with him. He is in the woods, picking mint. Go on, let him see your face. If possible, cross with him. If not, you should turn back. When Gilgamesh heard this, he raised the axe in his hand, drew the dagger from his belt, and slipped stealthily away after them. Like an arrow, he fell among them, the stone things. From the middle of the woods, their noise could be heard. Urshanabi, the sharp-eyed, saw. When he heard the axe, he ran toward it. He struck his head, Gilgamesh. He clapped his hands and his chest, while the stone things, the boat, waters of death, broad sea, in the waters of death, to the river, the boat, on the shore. Gilgamesh spoke to Urshanabi, the ferryman, you. Urshanabi spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, Why are your cheeks emaciated, your expression desolate? Why is your heart so wretched, your features so haggard? Why is there such sadness deep within you? Why do you look like one who has been traveling a long distance, so that ice and heat have seared your face? Why? You roam the wilderness. Gilgamesh spoke to Urshanabi, saying, Urshanabi, should my cheeks not be emaciated, my expression desolate? Should my heart not be wretched, my features not haggard? Should there not be sadness deep within me? Should I not look like one who has been traveling a long distance? And should ice and heat not have seared my face? Should I not roam the wilderness? My friend, who chased wild asses in the mountain, the panther of the wilderness, Enkidu, my friend, who chased wild asses in the mountains, the panther of the wilderness. We joined together and went up into the mountain. We grappled with and killed the bull of heaven. We destroyed Humbaba who dwelled in the cedar forest. We slew lions in the mountain passes. My friend, whom I love deeply, who went through every hardship with me. Enkidu, my friend, whom I love deeply, who went through every hardship with me. The fate of mankind has overtaken him. 6 days and 7 nights I mourned over him, and would not allow him to be buried until a maggot fell out of his nose. I was terrified by his appearance. I began to fear death, and so roamed the wilderness. The issue of my friend oppresses me, so I've been roaming the long trails through the wilderness. The issue of Enkidu, my friend, oppresses me, so I have been roaming long roads through the wilderness. How can I stay silent? How can I be still? My friend whom I love has turned to clay. Enkidu, my friend whom I love, has turned to clay. Am I not like him? Will I lie down never to get up again? Gilgamesh spoke to Urshanabi, saying, Now, Urshanabi, what is the way to Utnapishtim? Where are its markers? Give them to me. Give me the markers. If possible, I will cross the sea. If not, I will roam the wilderness. Urshanabi spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, It is your hands, Gilgamesh, that prevent the crossing. You have smashed the stone things. You have pulled out their retaining ropes. The stone things have been smashed, their retaining ropes pulled out. Gilgamesh, take the axe in your hand, go down to the woods, cut down 300 punting poles, each 60 cubits in length, strip them, attach caps, and bring them to the boat. When Gilgamesh heard this, he took up the axe in his hand, drew the dagger from his belt, and went down into the woods, and cut 300 punting poles, each 60 cubits in length. He stripped them and attached caps, and brought them to the boat. Gilgamesh and Urshanabi bearded the boat. Gilgamesh launched the Magilu boat, and they sailed away. By the third day they had traveled a stretch of a month and a half, and Urshanabi arrived at the waters of death. Urshanabi said to Gilgamesh, Hold back, Gilgamesh. Take a punting pole, but your hands must not pass over the waters of death. Take a second, Gilgamesh, a third, and a fourth pole. Take a fifth, Gilgamesh, a sixth, a seventh pole, an eighth, Gilgamesh, a ninth and a 10th pole. Take an 11th, Gilgamesh, and a 12th pole. In twice 60 rods Gilgamesh had used up the punting poles. Then he loosened his waistcloth, for Gilgamesh stripped off his garment and held it up on the mast with his arms. Utnapishtim was gazing off into the distance. Puzzling to himself, he said, wondering to himself, Why are the stone things of the boat smashed to pieces? And why is someone not its master sailing on it? The one who is coming is not a man of mine. I keep looking, but not. I keep looking, but not. I keep looking. Some lines are missing here. Utnapishtim said to Gilgamesh, Why are your cheeks emaciated, your expression so desolate? Why is your heart so wretched, your features so haggard? Why is there such sadness deep within you? Why do you look like one who has been traveling a long distance so that ice and heat have seared your face? You roam the wilderness. Gilgamesh spoke to Utnapishtim, saying, Should not my cheeks be emaciated, my expression desolate? Should not my heart be wretched, my features not haggard? Should there not be sadness deep within me? Should I not look like one who has been traveling a long distance? And should ice and heat not have seared my face? Should I not roam the wilderness? My friend who chased wild asses in the mountain, the panther of the wilderness, Enkidu, my friend who chased wild asses in the mountain, the panther of the wilderness, we joined together and went up into the mountain. We grappled with and killed the bull of heaven. We destroyed Humbaba who dwelled in the cedar forest. We slew lions in the mountain passes. My friend, whom I love deeply, who went through every hardship with me. Enkidu, my friend, whom I love deeply, who went through every hardship with me. The fate of mankind has taken him. 6 days and 7 nights I mourned over him. I would not allow him to be buried until a maggot fell out of his nose. I was terrified by his appearance. I began to fear death, so I roamed the wilderness. The issue of my friend oppresses me, so I have been roaming long trails through the wilderness. The issue of Enkidu, my friend, oppresses me, so I have been roaming long roads through the wilderness. How can I stay silent? How How can I be still? My friend whom I love has turned to clay. Enkidu, my friend whom I love, has turned to clay. Am I not like him? Will I lie down and never get up again? Gilgamesh spoke to Utnapishtim, saying, That is why I must go on, to see Utnapishtim whom they call the Faraway. I went circling through all the mountains. I traversed treacherous mountains and crossed the seas. That is why sweet sleep has not mellowed my face. Through sleepless nights striving I am strained. My muscles are filled with pain. I had not yet reached the tavern keeper's area before my clothing gave out. I killed bear, hyena, lion, panther, tiger, stag, red stag, and beasts of the wilderness. I ate their meat and wrapped their skins around me. The gate of grief must be bolted shut, sealed with pitch and bitumen. As for me, dancing, for me, unfortunate, it will root out. Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, Why, Gilgamesh, do you, sadness, you who were created from the flesh of gods and mankind, who made like your father and mother, have you ever, Gilgamesh, to the fool, they placed a chair in the assembly, but to the fool they gave beer dregs instead of butter, bran and cheap flour which like, clothed with a loincloth like, and in place of a sash, because he does not have the words of counsel. Take care about it, Gilgamesh, their master. Sin, eclipse of the moon. The gods are sleepless. They are troubled, restless. Long ago, it has been established. You trouble yourself. Your help. If Gilgamesh, the temple of the gods, the temple of the holy gods, the gods, mankind, they took for his fate. You have toiled without cease, and what have you got? Through toil you wear yourself out. You fill your body with grief. Your long lifetime you are bringing near to a premature end. Mankind, whose offshoot is snapped off like a reed in a canebrake, the fine youth and lovely girl, death. No one can see death. No one can see the face of death. No one can hear the voice of death. Yet, there is savage death that snaps off mankind. For how long do we build a household? For how long do we seal a document? For how long do brothers share the inheritance? For how long is there to be jealousy in the land? For how long has the river risen and brought the overflowing waters, so that the dragonflies drift down the river? The face that could gaze upon the face of the sun has never existed, ever. How alike are the sleeping and the dead. The image of death cannot be depicted. Yes, you are a human being, a man. After Enlil pronounced the blessing, the Anunnaki, the great gods, assembled. Memetum, she who forms destiny, determined destiny with them. They established death and life, but they did not make known the days of death. Gilgamesh spoke to Utnapishtim, the Faraway. I have been looking at you, but your appearance is not strange. You are like me. You yourself are not different. You are like me. My mind was resolved to fight you, but instead my arm lies useless over you. Tell me, how is it that you stand in the assembly of gods and have found life? Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, I will reveal to you, Gilgamesh, a thing that is hidden. A secret of the gods I will tell you. Shurupak, a city that you surely know, situated on the banks of the Euphrates. That city was very old, and there were gods inside of it. The hearts of the great gods moved them to inflict the flood. Their father, Anu, uttered the oath of secrecy. Valiant Enlil was their adviser. Ninurta was their chamberlain. Anuji was their minister of canals. Ea, the clever prince, was under oath with them. So he repeated their talk to the reed house. Reed house, wall, wall, O man of Shurapak, son of Ubartutu. Tear down the house and build a boat. Abandon wealth and seek living beings. Spurn possessions and keep alive living beings. Make all living beings go up into the boat which you are to build. Its dimensions must be equal to each other. Its length must correspond to its width. Roof it over like the Apsu. I understood and spoke to my lord, Ea. My lord, thus is the command for which you have uttered. I will heed and will do it. But what shall I answer the city, the populace, and the elders? Ea spoke, commanding me, his servant. You, well then, this is what you must say to them. It appears that Enlil is rejecting me, so I cannot reside in your city, nor set foot on Enlil's earth. I will go down to the Apsu to live with my lord, Ea. And upon you he will rain down abundance, a profusion of fowl, myriads of fishes. He will bring you a harvest of wealth. In the morning he will let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. Just as dawn began to glow, the land assembled around me. The carpenter carried his hatchet. The reed worker carried his flattening stone. The child carried the pitch. The weak brought whatever else was needed. On the 5th day, I laid out her exterior. It was a field in area. Its walls were each 10 times 12 cubits in height. The sides of its top were equal in length, 10 times cubits each. I laid out its interior structure and drew a picture of it. I provided it with 6 decks, thus dividing it into 7 levels. The inside of it I divided into 9 compartments. I drove plugs to keep the water out of its middle part. I saw to the pruning poles and laid in what was necessary. 3 times 3,600 units of raw bitumen I poured into the bitumen kiln. 3 times 3,600 units of pitch into. There were 3 times 3,600 porters of casks who carried vegetable oil, apart from the 3,600 units of oil which they consumed, and 2 times 3,600 units of oil which the boatman stored away. I butchered oxen for meat, and day upon day I slaughtered sheep. I gave the workmen ale, beer, oil, and wine as if it were river water, so that they could make a party like the New Year's festival. And I set my hand to the oiling. The boat was finished by sunset. The launch was very difficult. They had to keep carrying the runaway poles front to back until 2/3 of it had gone into the water. Whatever I had loaded on it, whatever silver I had loaded on it, whatever gold I had loaded on it, all the living beings that I had loaded on it. I had all my kith and kin go up into the boat, all of the beasts and animals of the field and the craftsmen I had go up. Shamash had set a stated time. In the morning I will let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. Go inside the boat, seal the entry. That stated time had arrived. In the morning he let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. I watched the appearance of the weather. The weather was frightful to behold. I went into the boat and sealed the entry. From the caulking of the boat to Pusaramori, the boatman, I gave the palace together with its contents. Just as dawn began to glow, there arose from the horizon a black cloud. Adad rumbled inside of it. Before him went Shulat and Hanish, heralds going over the mountain land. Iragal pulled out the mooring poles. Forth went Ninurta and made the dikes overflow. The Anunnaki lifted the torches, setting the land ablaze with their flare. Stunned shock over Adad's deeds took the heavens, and turning to blackness all that had been light, the land shattered like a pot. All day long the south wind blew, blowing fast, submerging the mountain in water, overwhelming the people like an attack. No one could see his fellow. They could not recognize each other in the torrent. The gods were frightened by the flood, and retreated, ascending to the heaven of Anu. The gods were cowering like dogs, crouching by the outer wall. Ishtar shrieked like a woman in childbirth. The sweet-voiced mistress of the gods wailed, "The olden days have alas turned to clay, because I said evil things in the assembly of the gods." How could I say evil things in the assembly of the gods, ordering a catastrophe to destroy my people? No sooner had I given birth to my dear people than they fill the sea like so many fish. The gods, those of the Anunnaki, were weeping with her. The gods humbly sat weeping, sobbing with grief, their lips burning, parched with thirst. 6 days and 7 nights came the wind and flood, the storm flattening the land. When the 7th day arrived, the storm was pounding. The flood was a war, struggling with itself like a woman writhing in labor. The sea calmed, fell still. The whirlwind and flood stopped. I looked around all day long. Quiet had set in, and all the human beings had turned to clay. The terrain was flat as a roof. I opened a vent, and fresh air, daylight fell upon the side of my nose. I fell to my knees and sat weeping. Tears streamed down the side of my nose. I looked around for coastlines in the expanse of the sea, and at 12 leagues there emerged a region of land. On Mount Nemush the boat lodged firm. Mount Nemush held the boat, allowing no sway. 1 day and a second Mount Nemush held the boat, allowing no sway. A 3rd day, a 4th, Mount Nemush held the boat, allowing no sway. A 5th day, a 6th, Mount Nemush held the boat, allowing no sway. When a 7th day arrived, I set forth a dove and released it. The dove went off, but came back to me. No perch was visible, so it encircled back to me. I sent forth a swallow and released it. The swallow went off, but came back to me. No perch was visible, so it circled back to me. I sent forth a raven and released it. The raven went off, and saw the waters slither back. It eats, it scratches, it bobs, but does not circle back to me. Then I sent out everything in all directions, and sacrificed a sheep. I offered incense in front of the mountain, ziggurat. 7 and 7 cult vessels I put in place, and into the fire, underneath, I poured reeds, cedar and myrtle. The gods smelled the savor. The gods smelled the sweet savor, and collected like flies over a sacrifice. Just then, Baleli arrived. He lifted up the large flies which Anu had made for his enjoyment. You gods, as surely as I shall not forget this lapis lazuli around my neck, may I be mindful of these days and not forget them. The gods may come to the incense offering, but Enlil may not come to the incense offering, because, without considering, he brought about the flood and consigned my people to annihilation. Just then, Enlil arrived. He saw the boat and became furious. He was filled with rage at the Igigi gods. Where did a living being escape? No man was to survive this annihilation. Ninurta spoke to valiant Enlil, saying, "Who else but Ea could devise such a thing? It is Ea who knows every machination." Ea spoke to valiant Enlil, saying, "It is yours, O valiant one, who is the sage of gods. How could you bring the flood without consideration? Charge the violation to the violator. Charge the offense to the offender. To be compassionate lest mankind be cut off. Be patient lest they be killed. Instead of your bringing on the flood, Would that a lion had appeared to diminish the people. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that a wolf had appeared to diminish the people. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that a famine had occurred to slay the land. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that pestilent era had appeared to ravage the land. It was not I who revealed the secret of the great gods. I made a dream appear to Atrehasis, and thus he heard the secret of the gods. Now then, the deliberation should be about him. Enil went up inside the boat, and, grasping my hand, made me go up. He had my wife go up and kneel by my side. He touched our forehead, and, standing between us, he blessed us. Previously, Unapishtim was a human being. But now, let Unapishtim and his wife become like us, the gods. Let Unapishtim reside far away, at the mouth of the rivers. They took us far away and settled us at the mouth of the rivers. Now then, who will convene the gods on your behalf, that you might find the life that you are seeking? Wait. You must not lie down for 6 days and 7 nights. Soon as he sat down, with his head between his legs, slept, like a fog blew upon him. Utnapishtim said to his wife, Look there, the man, the youth who wanted eternal life, sleep, like a fog blew over him. His wife said to Utnapishtim, the faraway, Touch him, let the man awaken. Let him return safely by the way he came. Let him return to his land by the gate through which he left. Utnapishtim said to his wife, Mankind is deceptive, and will deceive you. Come, bake loaves for him, and keep setting them by his head, and draw on the wall each day that he lay down. She baked his loaves, and placed them by his head, and marked the wall the day that he lay down. The first loaf was desiccated, the second stale, the third moist, the fourth turned white, the fifth sprouted gray mold, the sixth is fresh, the seventh, suddenly he touched him, and the man awoke. Gilgamesh said to Utnapishtim, The very moment sleep was pouring over me, you touched me and alerted me. Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, Look over here, Gilgamesh. Count your loaves. You should be aware of what is marked on the wall. Your first loaf is desiccated, your second stale, the third moist, your fourth turned white. The fifth sprouted gray mold, the sixth is still fresh, and the seventh. At that instant you awoke. Gilgamesh said to Utnapishtim, the faraway, Oh woe, what shall I do, Utnapishtim? Where shall I go? The snatcher has taken hold of my flesh. In my bedroom death dwells, and wherever I set foot there too is death. Home, empty-handed. Utnapishtim said to Urshanabi, the ferryman, May the harbor reject you. May the ferry landing reject you. May you who used to walk on its shores be denied its shores. The man in front of whom you walk, matted hair chains his body. Animal skins have ruined his beautiful skin. Take him away, Urshanabi. Bring him to the washing place. Let him wash his matted hair in water like Elu. Let him cast away his animal skin and have the sea carry it off. Let his body be moistened with fine oil. Let the wrap around his head be made new. Let him wear royal robes worthy of him, until he goes off to his city, until he sets off on his way. Let his royal robe not become spotted, let it be perfectly new. Urshanabi took him away and brought him to the washing place. He washed his matted hair with water like Elu. He cast off his animal skin, and the sea carried it off. He moistened his body with fine oil. He made a new wrap for his head. He put on a royal robe worthy of him. Until he went away to his city, until he set off on his way, his royal robe remained unspotted. It was perfectly clean. Gilgamesh and Urshanabi bearded the boat. They cast off the Magalu boat and sailed away. The wife of Utnapishtim the faraway said to him, Gilgamesh came here exhausted and worn out. What can you give him so that he can return to his land with honor?" Then Gilgamesh raised a punting pole and drew the boat to shore. Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, "Gilgamesh, you came here exhausted and worn out. What can I give to you so that you can return to your land?" "I will disclose to you a thing that is hidden, Gilgamesh." I will tell you. There is a plant, like a box thorn, whose thorns will prick your hand like a rose. If your hand reaches the plant, you will become a young man again. Hearing this, Gilgamesh opened a conduit to the Apsu and attached heavy stones to his feet. They dragged him down. To the Apsu they pulled him. He took the plant, though it pricked his hand, and cut the heavy stones from his feet, letting the waves throw him onto the shores. Gilgamesh spoke to Urshanabi, the ferryman, saying, "Urshanabi, this plant is the plant against decay, by which a man can attain his survival. I will bring it to Uruk haven, and have an old man eat the plant to test it. The plant's name is, the old man becomes a young man. Then I will eat it and return to the condition of my youth." At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night. Seeing a spring and how cool its waters were, Gilgamesh went down and was bathing in the water. A snake smelled the fragrance of the plant, silently came up and carried off the plant. While going back, it sloughed off its casing. At that point, Gilgamesh sat down, weeping, his tears streaming over the side of his nose. "Counsel me, O ferryman Urshanabi, for whom my arms labored, Urshanabi, for whom my heart's blood boiled, Urshanabi. I have not secured any good deed for myself, but done a good deed for the lion of the ground. Now the high waters are coursing 20 leagues distant. As I was opening the conduit, I turned my equipment over into it. What can I find to serve as a marker for me? I will turn back from the journey by the sea, and leave the boat by the shore." At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night. They arrived in Uruk haven. Gilgamesh said to Urshanabi, the ferryman, "Go up, Urshanabi, onto the wall of Uruk and walk around. Examine its foundation, inspect its brickwork thoroughly. Is not even the core of the brick structure of kiln-fired brick? Did not the 7 sages themselves lay out its plan? 1 league city, 1 league palm gardens, 1 league lowlands, the open area of the Ishtar temple. 3 leagues, and the open area of Uruk it encloses."